Everyone called me a hero, but I didn't save anyone. Before we begin, I'd love to know something. Where in the world are you listening from? Tell me in the comments. I love seeing how far these stories travel. And if you enjoy stories like this, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And tell me in the comments what you think about this story when it's over. I really love reading your thoughts. The first time it happened, I thought they had the wrong guy. I was standing in line at a coffee shop just a regular Tuesday morning, just a dad trying to survive another day with too little sleep and too much responsibility. My hoodie was stained with dried toothpaste. My sneakers were still damp from stepping in slush the night before. I smelled faintly like baby wipes and stress. I wasn't a hero. I was a man who had forgotten to defrost the chicken. But when the cashier looked up and froze, her eyes went wide like she'd just seen a ghost. I knew something was off. She didn't smile the way people smile when they recognize you from around town. She stared like the world had paused. Then she whispered, barely audible, Are you him?" I blinked. "Sorry?" Her hands trembled as she handed me the receipt. "It's really you." Behind me, someone shifted in line. I turned to look. A teenager with a beanie was holding his phone like a shield, recording. His friend elbowed him, wide-eyed, grinning like he'd found treasure. The phone tilted toward my face, then back down, then up again. He wasn't subtle at all. My stomach tightened. I stepped aside with my coffee and waited by the sugar packets, suddenly feeling exposed, like my skin was too thin. I checked my reflection in the dark window. Same tired eyes, same 3-day stubble, same man who had spent last night cutting crusts off sandwiches and bargaining with a 7-year-old about homework. Nothing heroic. A minute later, the coffee shop door opened and cold air rushed in. A woman walked in wearing a long coat, her hair tied back, cheeks flushed from the wind. She stopped the moment she saw me. She put her hand over her mouth. "And then," she cried. Not a little tear, not a sniffle. She cried like I had ripped something open inside her. She walked toward me fast, too fast, like she couldn't stop herself. Before I could speak, she reached me, grabbed my forearm, and squeezed so hard it hurt. "Thank you," she said, voice breaking. "Thank you for what you did." I pulled back gently, confused. "I'm sorry. I think you have me mixed up." "No," she insisted. "No, it's you. I saw it. We all saw it." My throat went dry. "Saw what?" She shook her head like I was joking, like I was pretending. The way you stayed, the way you didn't leave." I stared at her, because I had no idea what she was talking about. I didn't stay anywhere. I didn't save anyone. I didn't do anything worth tears. But she looked at me like I was the reason she could breathe again. Then she hugged me, right there. In the coffee shop, a stranger hugged me like I belonged to her story. I stood stiff, arms hovering awkwardly, unsure what to do. People were watching. Phones were out. Whispering started in the line. "Is that him?" "That's him. That's the guy." "Oh my God!" I peeled away as gently as I could. "Listen," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "I think you're mistaken. I'm just a dad." She wiped her face and laughed through tears. "That's what makes it worse," she said softly. "You're just a dad, and you did what nobody else did." She backed up as if giving me space, but her eyes stayed locked on mine, full of something that looked like gratitude and pain mixed together. Then she left, and the room stayed loud without sound, like everyone was holding their breath. I walked out of the shop with my coffee still untouched. My hands were shaking. By the time I got to my car, I couldn't stand it anymore. I pulled out my phone and did what everyone does when reality starts acting strange. I searched myself. My name, Ethan Cole. At first, it was nothing, just the usual boring results. An old Little League volunteer page, a PTA sign-up list, a church fundraiser I helped with 2 years ago. Then I scrolled and saw it. A video. Grainy, shaky, posted less than 12 hours ago. The title made my chest tighten. The Hero Dad Who Refused to Walk Away. It already had over 2 million views. My finger hovered above it like it could bite me. Then I hit play. The screen filled with a street at night. Blue and red lights flashed across wet pavement. People were screaming. And then the camera turned, and there I was. My body, my face, the exact hoodie I was wearing right now. But my memory did something strange. It didn't light up. It didn't click. It stayed dark. Because I didn't remember being there. In the video, I was standing near an overturned car. Smoke curled into the cold air like a warning. Someone in the background was shouting, "Back up! Back up!" But I didn't move. I was facing the wreck like I was anchored to it. The captions appeared over the video in bold white letters. "He would not leave." A woman's voice narrated over it, shaky, emotional. "I don't even know his name," she said, "but he stayed with her. Everyone else ran. He didn't." My pulse slammed. The camera zoomed closer. In the video, my hands were pressed against the passenger side window. I was yelling something, but the audio was too chaotic to hear. The narrator's voice continued. She was trapped. Her leg was pinned. She was screaming. She thought she was going to die. I swallowed hard. In the next moment of the video, the door opened. Someone inside screamed again, and then my arms reached in. I pulled. The camera shook violently, and then I dragged someone out. A woman. Her face was bloodied. Her eyes were open but unfocused, and I wrapped my jacket around her shoulders like it was the only thing in the world that mattered. The narrator started sobbing, and he just held her, she said. He held her like she was somebody, like she wasn't alone. My throat burned, because I was watching myself do something I didn't remember doing. The video ended with ambulance doors closing and a paramedic yelling, "We got her! We got her!" Then the screen cut to black. My phone vibrated with a notification, then another, then another. Messages I hadn't noticed because my phone had been on silent. I opened them. Unknown number. Is this really you? Unknown number. You saved my sister. Unknown number. Please, call me. Unknown number. You don't know what you did for us. My fingers went numb. I stared at the screen, then at my steering wheel, then back at the screen again like the answers would appear. I didn't even go out last night. That's what I told myself. I went straight home after work. I made dinner. I cleaned up Legos. I helped Noah with homework. I read Ava her bedtime story. I was exhausted. I fell asleep on the couch with the TV still on. That's what happened. That's what I remembered. So how was I? On a street at night, pulling a woman out of a wreck. I replayed the video. Slower this time. I watched the way I moved. The angle of my shoulders. The way I leaned in. It was me. There was no denying it. My heart started to race, and a cold sweat broke out at the back of my neck. I opened the comments, and that's where the world tilted. Because it wasn't just praise. It was devotion. This man restored my faith in humanity. This is what a real man looks like. Protect him at all costs. I was there. I saw him. He saved her. He stayed with her even when the car started smoking. He kept talking to her like he knew her. He called her by name. I froze. Called her by name? I scrolled up again, reading it twice. He kept saying her name. Over and over. My breath hitched, because I didn't know anyone in a crash. I didn't know any woman out there last night. Unless a memory flickered weak and distant, like a light behind fog. A smell. Not coffee. Not detergent. Something sharp. Something burning. My chest tightened. I gripped the steering wheel hard, like I was trying to keep myself in place. Then, like a punch to the gut, one comment stopped me. A single sentence. He looks exactly like the guy who disappeared from the news 10 years ago. I blinked. Scrolled back. Read it again. 10 years ago? Another comment replied. Yes, I thought the same thing. This is unreal. Somebody check this. My mouth went dry. Because 10 years ago, my life didn't exist the way it does now. 10 years ago, I wasn't a dad. 10 years ago, I wasn't anyone worth noticing. I was just a kid who left home in the middle of the night and never came back the same. And I had never told my kids that story. I hadn't told anyone, not even my wife. My phone rang suddenly. A number I didn't recognize. I hesitated, then answered. Hello? A man's voice, calm and official. Is this Ethan Cole? Yes. This is Officer Ramirez with the... He paused, and I heard papers shuffling, like he was reading off a form. With the county police department. My stomach dropped. Okay, we need to ask you a few questions regarding last night's incident. My mind raced. I saw the video. I don't understand. I wasn't... Sir, he said, cutting me off gently. Where were you last night between 9:40 and 10:15 p.m.? The air felt thin. I looked at my hands. At the coffee cup. At the steering wheel. At the phone in my grip. And I realized something terrifying. I couldn't answer. Not with certainty. Because the moment I tried to remember, my mind hit a wall. Like someone had erased a piece of my night and painted over it with a normal life. I was home, I said finally, but my voice sounded weaker than I meant it to. There was a pause on the line. Then Officer Ramirez spoke again, slower this time. Sir, can you explain why the woman you pulled from that car keeps asking for you by name? My throat tightened. I don't know her, I whispered. Another pause. Then he said the words that made my blood turn cold. She says you promised you'd come back. Silence filled my car like water. I stared ahead at nothing. Come back? I repeated. Officer Ramirez exhaled. We're going to need you to come down to the station, Mr. Cole, today. My hand started trembling again. Why? Because, he said, voice low, she says, you're the reason she's alive. And she says, you're the reason the crash happened. I couldn't breathe. What? Please don't leave town, he added. We'll see you soon. The call ended. I sat there, frozen. The world outside my windshield moved like normal. Cars passed. People walked. A dog barked. But inside me, something cracked open, because a million strangers thought I was a hero. And now a police officer was telling me the woman I saved thought I caused it. I opened the video again, paused on the moment my face was visible, and stared. The hoodie, the stare, the urgency. The me in that video looked like a man who knew exactly what he was doing, and I didn't recognize him. My phone buzzed again. Another notification. This one from a private message request on a platform I barely used. I opened it. No profile picture. No name. Just a blank account with a single sentence. You became famous because the truth finally caught up with you. My heart slammed. I stared at the message until my eyes watered. Then I looked down at my coffee, still untouched, and realized my hands were shaking so badly I couldn't lift it. Somewhere inside my chest, an old fear I thought I'd buried started breathing again. Because this didn't feel like fame, it felt like a reckoning. And the worst part? I still didn't know what I had done. But the world did. And it was coming for me. The police station smelled like stale coffee, wet coats, and that strange kind of cold that never leaves the walls. Even though it was mid-morning, the fluorescent lights made everything look like it was taking place in a hospital hallway at 2 a.m. Pale, quiet, unnervingly clean. My footsteps echoed too loud on the tile floor, like the building itself wanted everyone to hear I didn't belong here. Officer Ramirez met me at the front desk. He wasn't tall. He wasn't intimidating. He didn't carry that bad cop energy you see on TV. If anything, he looked tired in the way dads look tired, like he'd had a long week and couldn't afford to fall apart. But his eyes were sharp. They tracked me the way you watch a storm forming. Mr. Cole, he said, extending his hand. I shook it automatically. My palm was damp. You said on the phone, I began, but he held up his hand. Let's go somewhere private. He walked me past two officers laughing quietly near a vending machine, past a hallway of doors I didn't want to look at. I tried not to stare at the holding cells. I tried not to picture myself behind one of those metal bars. My brain kept repeating one sentence like a warning siren. Don't leave town. Officer Ramirez guided me into a small interview room with a table bolted to the floor and two chairs facing each other. A third chair sat in the corner like an afterthought. He didn't sit yet. He just looked at me. Before we talk about anything else, he said, I need you to understand something. My throat was tight. Okay, you're not under arrest. I exhaled a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. But, he continued, you are involved. My heart sank again. Involved how? I asked. Ramirez opened a folder. Inside were printed screenshots from the video. The same video that had turned my life inside out. My face in motion, my hands at the window, my jacket around her shoulders. He slid a photo across the table toward me. It was a still frame from the video. My eyes were wild, focused, not confused, not scared, like I'd done it before. I stared at that version of me and felt a wave of nausea. That's me, I said quietly. Yes, Ramirez replied, and you can see why people are calling you a hero. I didn't answer, because I couldn't say what I wanted to say without sounding insane. I didn't remember, not a single second. Ramirez leaned forward, resting his forearms on the table. You told me you were home last night. I was, I insisted, and it came out sharper than I meant it to. I made dinner. I put my kids to bed. And after that? I hesitated. After that was fog. After that was the TV humming in the living room, my body heavy on the couch, the remote sliding off my chest. After that was nothing. I swallowed. I fell asleep. Ramirez studied my face carefully, like he was testing the truth on it. Do you ever sleepwalk, Mr. Cole? I blinked. No. Have you ever blacked out? No. He paused. Any history of head trauma? I felt my stomach flip. No. I mean, not that I know of. Not that you know of? He repeated, like that mattered. I rubbed my forehead, trying to keep my thoughts from scattering. Look, officer, this is crazy. I watched the video. I understand why people think I'm a hero, he finished. I nodded, but I swear to you, I don't know how I got there. Ramirez exhaled slowly. Then he opened the folder again and pulled out a printed report. The woman's name is Lena Harper, he said. I didn't react, because the name meant nothing to me. But the second he said it, something inside my chest twitched anyway, like a wire had been pulled. Ramirez didn't miss it. Her car was hit by a truck that ran a red light. Witnesses say the truck driver sped away. We're still looking for the vehicle. But there's a bigger problem. What problem? Ramirez tapped the paper. Lena Harper woke up in the hospital around 3 a.m. I leaned forward slightly, my body bracing for something I couldn't name. She was disoriented, in pain, but lucid. He paused, and she requested you. My throat closed. Why? Ramirez's eyes stayed locked on mine. Because she said you're the only one who can explain what happened. I felt my voice go quiet. I didn't cause it. Ramirez didn't answer that. Instead, he reached into the folder and pulled out a second photo. He slid it across the table. It was Lena. A hospital intake photo. Bruised cheek, blood in her hair, a cut on her eyebrow stitched up in jagged lines. Her eyes looked exhausted, but alive. Her face wasn't familiar, but her eyes. I stared too long, and my skin prickled. Do you recognize her? Ramirez asked. No, I said, but my voice hesitated on the word. No, except something about her gaze felt like déjà vu, like I'd seen those eyes in a dream. Ramirez leaned back in his chair. She keeps saying, you saved her. That's what everyone is saying. But, he continued, she also said you knew her. I shook my head. I don't. She said you kept calling her by a name that isn't Lena. My blood ran cold. My mouth dried out. What name? I asked. Ramirez didn't answer immediately. He stared at me for a long moment, then spoke carefully, like the word itself could be a weapon. She says you called her Mara. The room shifted. Not physically, but something inside me moved, like a door cracking open in a house that's been locked for years. Mara. I hadn't heard that name in a decade. And yet the moment it hit my ears, my mind flashed with something sharp enough to make my eyes water. A girl's laugh, echoing off water. A bracelet with tiny blue beads. A voice whispering, Promise me you won't forget. I gripped the edge of the table. Ramirez noticed. You know that name. I shook my head too fast. No, I lead. Because yes, I did. And I hadn't said it out loud in years. How does she know it? I whispered. Ramirez tilted his head. That's what I'm asking you. My lungs felt tight. I stared at my own hands. I remembered being 16, standing on a bridge at night, the river below like moving darkness. I remembered a girl beside me, her breath showing in the air, her hands trembling. I remembered her crying, but the memory cut off before I could see what happened next, like someone had ripped the film out of the projector. Ramirez slid another paper toward me, a hospital statement. On it was one line that made my heart stop. He told me, I'm sorry I left you. My eyes blurred. I swallowed. I couldn't speak. Officer Ramirez softened his voice just slightly. Mr. Cole, do you know why people call you a hero? I didn't answer. Because, he said quietly, most people don't go back. My throat tightened. Go back where? Ramirez tapped the report again. She said you came back for her. My mouth opened, but no words came. Because none of this made sense. Unless I had left her once, and my body had been trying to fix it ever since. Ramirez stood. I'm going to take you to the hospital. My head snapped up. Now? She's requesting you again. She's refusing pain medication until she sees you. I froze. Why would she do that? Ramirez opened the door. Because she thinks if she falls asleep, you'll disappear again. The hospital was only 12 minutes away, but it felt like I crossed into another lifetime. As we drove, Ramirez didn't speak. Neither did I. The city passed by in blurred streaks, brick buildings, traffic lights, winter trees stripped bare like bones. I stared out the window and tried to remember the girl from 10 years ago. Tried to pull her face into focus, but my memory refused. It stayed foggy on purpose, like my mind was guarding something. We entered the hospital through a side entrance. A nurse led us down a hallway. My stomach twisted with every step. The nurse stopped at a room and looked at me with a strange expression, sympathy, maybe, or warning. She's been asking for you for hours, the nurse said softly. Be gentle. My mouth went dry. Ramirez nodded to me. I'll be right outside. The nurse opened the door, and I stepped inside. The room was dim, except for the glow of monitors. The air smelled like antiseptic and something metallic. Lena lay in the bed, hooked up to machines, her head wrapped in gauze. Her eyes were open, watching. The moment she saw me, her whole face changed. Not relief, not gratitude, recognition, like her soul had been holding its breath, waiting. You came, she whispered. My voice shook. Hi, Lena? The name sounded wrong in my mouth. She blinked slowly. Then her eyes filled with tears. You said you wouldn't leave again, she whispered. My chest tightened. I'm sorry, I said, stepping closer. I don't understand. People are saying I saved you, and I don't even remember being there. Her fingers twitched like she wanted to reach for me, but couldn't. You don't remember, she whispered, and her voice cracked like glass. I swallowed. No. She stared at me like I'd punched her. Then she turned her head slightly, staring at the ceiling. For a moment, she didn't speak. And in that moment, my heart pounded so loud I could hear it in my ears. Finally, she whispered, They told me you'd pretend you forgot. My throat burned. I'm not pretending. Her eyes slid back to me, sharp and wet. You looked me in the eyes, she said softly, and you said my name. My skin went cold. Mara. Her lips trembled. Yes. I took a step back, like the name itself pushed me. Mara, I repeated, barely audible. She nodded, and when she nodded, a small blue beaded bracelet slipped from her wrist, sliding down to her hand. I stared at it. Tiny blue beads, exactly like the memory in my head. My knees felt weak. You still have that? I whispered. Her eyes widened. You remember, she said, and suddenly the room spun. Because I hadn't meant to say that. It slipped out before I could stop it. And now she knew. I knew something, and the part of me that had been hiding it panicked. I looked at her bracelet again, and then the dam broke. A flash, a bridge at night, her shaking hands, her voice. Ethan, I can't do this anymore. Me, 16, terrified, grabbing her wrists. Don't, I begged. Please, don't. Another flash, a scream, a slip, her body falling. No, not falling, being pulled. My hands grabbing hers. The cold burn of metal cutting into my palms. Her eyes wide with terror. And then, the memory snapped shut. I gasped, like I'd come up from underwater. My hands were shaking violently now. Lena watched me, tears running down her temples, into her hair. You remember the bridge, she whispered. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't speak. Because the bridge was the moment my life split into two versions, the one everyone saw and the one I buried. How are you here? I whispered. You disappeared. She let out a broken laugh that sounded like pain. No, she whispered. You disappeared. The words slammed into me. My throat tightened so hard it hurt. I tried to find you, she continued. For years. I thought you were dead, and then last night, I saw you. She swallowed, and I thought God was giving me another chance. A tear slipped down my cheek. I didn't wipe it away, because suddenly, I understood the weight of her eyes. She didn't look at me like a hero. She looked at me like unfinished business, like a wound that never healed. I didn't mean to leave you, I whispered. Her eyes hardened. You did, she said. You promised me you wouldn't. And you still did. The words hit like a slap. I deserved it. Because somewhere deep inside me, past the fog, past the erased memories, I knew she was telling the truth. I had left her. I had walked away from the worst night of her life. And I had never come back. I swallowed, trembling. Why are you calling me a hero now? Her voice softened. Because you came back. My breath caught. She reached for my hand, her fingers weak but desperate, and when she touched me, my skin burned like electricity. You pulled me out of that car, she whispered, and you held me, and you kept saying, her voice broke. You kept saying, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. My chest collapsed inward, because I wasn't sure if she was talking about the crash last night, or the bridge 10 years ago. I'm not a hero, I whispered. She looked at me with exhaustion and pain and something like mercy. Maybe you're not, she said. Maybe you're just a man trying to fix the thing he broke. Her words pierced me. I closed my eyes for a second. Then I whispered, did I cause the crash? Her eyes flicked away. And in that moment, I knew the answer wasn't simple. She didn't say yes. She didn't say no. She said something worse. She said, you were following me. My blood turned to ice. What? Her voice was quiet now. I saw you in my rearview mirror. You were behind me for 5 minutes. My mouth opened, but nothing came. I thought it was a coincidence, she whispered, until you flashed your headlights. My heart slammed. That doesn't make sense, I said, but it sounded like begging. Her eyes filled with tears again. And then, she whispered, I remembered the bridge, and I panicked. My breath stopped. She swallowed painfully. I looked away for a second. And the truck hit you, I whispered. She nodded. And the guilt hit me like a wave. Because maybe I didn't ram her car. Maybe I didn't run a red light. But if I had been behind her, if I had been the ghost from her past chasing her again, then I had still caused it, in a way. And suddenly, I understood why she'd said it. You're the reason the crash happened. I stepped back, shaking. I didn't know it was you, I whispered. I swear, I didn't. She stared at me, and her eyes softened again. I believe you, she said. I blinked. You do? She nodded. Because last night, when you pulled me out, you looked just as terrified as you did back then. I swallowed. And then she whispered the words that finished me. But you didn't let go this time. My lips trembled. Tears burned my eyes. Because the truth was, maybe my mind didn't remember, but my body did. My soul did. It went back. It stayed. It refused to leave again. I sat down in the chair beside her bed, exhausted like I had carried something heavy for years without knowing it. I have kids now, I whispered. Her eyes widened slightly. Kids? I nodded. 2. A boy and a girl. She stared at me, like she was seeing time move. Do they know? She whispered. Know what? Who you were, she said. Who you really are. My throat tightened. I don't even know, I confessed. I don't know what I became. Lena's eyes shifted to the window, then back to me. You became the kind of man people trust, she whispered, even when you don't trust yourself. The room went quiet. Then she said something I wasn't ready for. Ethan, I didn't message you last night. I blinked. What? The anonymous message, she whispered. The one that said the truth caught up with you. My blood chilled again. Then who did? I asked. Her voice was barely audible. I think it was him. My stomach dropped. Who? She swallowed. The one who hit me. My chest tightened. The truck driver? I whispered. Lena nodded faintly. He was watching, she said. After the crash, I saw someone standing across the street. My eyes widened. You saw him? She nodded, fear flickering in her eyes. And he was smiling, she whispered. My whole body went rigid. Because suddenly, the story wasn't just about my past. It wasn't just about memory. It wasn't just about some random accident. Someone had been there, watching, waiting, and now, with me trending online, with my face everywhere. They could find me anytime. I looked down at Lena's hand gripping mine. I'm sorry, I whispered again. She squeezed my hand weakly. Don't disappear, she whispered. I won't, I said. And this time, I meant it. That night, I went home and stared at my sleeping kids for a long time. Noah was sprawled sideways in his bed, one leg hanging off. Ava clutched her stuffed bunny like it was guarding her heart. I stood in the doorway, barely breathing, because 10 years ago, I almost lost someone to the dark, and now the dark had found me again. I turned and walked down the hallway toward my bedroom. My wife was sitting on the edge of the bed, waiting. She had her phone in her hand. Her face was pale. Ethan, she said quietly. My heart sank. What is it? She turned the phone toward me. On the screen was a message request from an account with no picture, no name, only one sentence. Tell your kids goodbye. Heroes don't get happy endings. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. I didn't become popular by accident. I became popular because someone wanted me visible, easy to find, easy to break. And whoever it was, wasn't done with me yet.